Welcome to this video in the QPSMR Insight Up and Running series, and in this video we're going to be looking at entering data from a questionnaire that's already been prepared. So we're going to start by looking at the questionnaire we've got here, just so we're familiar with it, and you can see that there's just a few questions here, and that question 2 is filtered on people who say yes at question 1, so we'd only expect to answer that if they said yes at the first question. And then there's a multi-coded question at 3, an integer question at 4, and then 2 demographic questions and a variable which of course we'll ignore at data entry. So let's go into the data menu and see what we can do. Now the first thing that you'll see is there's a test mode. So if you want to test your questionnaire out to make sure it looks as though it's working, it's following the routing that you would expect and any other options you've selected, you would normally go through a test mode first of all to make sure it looks all right. When you're in test mode, of course, any data you enter does not get written away to any files. It's just a test as it sounds. All right, so we're going to proceed with doing some data entry on a project. So I'm going to open the data window and it's going to prompt me for a data file. And it's going to confirm that's the data file I want. So now we're ready to actually add some data, and you'll see some slight differences here if there's a paper, CAPI or telephone interview. Now this series is not covering telephone interviews, so we'll just have a look at the differences between paper and CAPI in this video. So let's look at a paper questionnaire where, if you can imagine, you've got a pile of questionnaires next to you and you're entering data from paper questionnaires that have already been completed. So let's click Add a New Paper Questionnaire. And you can see it prompts me here for the serial number. Now, if you haven't got a serial number on your questionnaires, it would be good practice to write a number on the sequential number that QPS is going to throw up. Or if you've got a serial number, of course, actually already printed on the questionnaire, you would replace that number there with the number on the questionnaire. All right, so let's now start keying in some data. So first question here, I can either use the mouse, so I could select this answer here and hit the enter key, that's one way of doing it, or I can go back and I can just use the keyboard and it will just proceed to the next question. So this question is another single question and all I want to do is pick the answer I want. Now I could have used the mouse and hit enter as I did before, but as it's a paper questionnaire, I can just type the key on the number pad or on the figures across the top of your keyboard. So if I pick 4 here, you'll see that it just takes that answer and goes on to the next question without doing anything else. I didn't need to highlight it with the mouse and hit enter, I just typed a 4. Over here on the right, you can see that it records the answers I've given. So it records that I gave a 1 at question 1 and a 4 at question 2. Now question 3 is slightly different. It's a multi-response question. So any number of answers are allowed here, although we can't say none of these with a valid answer. That would be prevented in data entry because none of these has been set as a single response only. So let's say I just want answers 2 and 3 here. If I want 2 answers, I have to hit the / key, which just holds it at that question, followed by 2, 3, and the enter key. Alternatively, of course, I could use the mouse to select the codes that I want and hit enter. All right, now if that was a single response I wanted at question 3, I could have just hit the single key and we've gone on to the next question. When we do the next questionnaire, we'll look at that. How many bicycles? I'm going to put 10, hit the enter key, gender 1, age group 2, and that's the end of my questionnaire, and I'm on to the second questionnaire. So let's do something a bit different here. Let's choose no to this. So I'm going to type 2. Now you can see what's happened here. Because I typed 2 at question 1, it's jumped over question 2. If you recall, question 2 was only asked of people who said yes at question 1. So you can see the grey marking there, and Q2 has been jumped. I could go back to question 1. We'll do that in a minute and reroute through the questionnaire if that was a mistake. Now let's select the magazines. Now if I only want one magazine here, I just type the single colon. I don't need to type the forward slash. I only type the forward slash to hold it at that question if I want more than one answer. So I'm going to select just a 4 here, and on it goes to the next question. Again, over here you can see the answers that were selected, 2 at question 1 and 4 at question 3. I'm going to put 5 in here. Now you could type in 05 if you want to put a leading 0, but there's no need to. So if that is on your questionnaire as a 2-digit box, for example, you might be tempted to type 05. You could, there's no problem with that, but just 5 is absolutely fine. And we're going to go through and be male and 55 plus, and that completes the second questionnaire. On to the third one. I'm going to type yes this time. I'm going to then do question 2 and type 5. Now let's say I wanted answers 2, 4 and 5, like / key 2, 4, 5, enter key to move it on to the next question. So that's all pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to go quickly through this 2 questions, and I'm just going to do one more, and let's see how we can change what you enter for a question. So number 4 now. I'm going to type a 2 here so it routes on to question 3, but realise I've made a mistake, and I'm going to go back, or I can go back some other ways, but this is the way I'm going to go back. I'm going to now change this to a 1, and you can see now that Q2 has become unshaded and can now be entered, so I can pick a 5 and I can carry on in the usual way. So that's entering a questionnaire for a paper questionnaire. Now let's look at entering a questionnaire for a CAPI questionnaire where we have an interviewer asking people. It's very similar, it's just that there's a bit more use of the mouse. So now I'm going into a questionnaire. Here I can type a 1 and it will select that answer, but it will either need the enter key or that next box there to move it on to the next question. So I could just type a 4 here and click next. Select with the mouse the answers I want and pick next, select 5 and so on. So I'm using the mouse, or if it's a touch screen I could use a touch screen to get through my questionnaire. Very similar principles, but a little bit more use of the mouse to enter answers, but in principle it's the same as entering a paper questionnaire. It's just the way of moving to the next question is slightly different. Now you don't have to use QPS to enter questionnaires. You can use the free input program. So if I want to, I can distribute this questionnaire, and we'll call it my project, and we'll distribute it for a paper questionnaire. We might make the first serial number 21, save it, and what I'm making here is a QIF file. So having made that file, I can use the QPSMR input program, which is freely distributable and means that any number of people can enter data from your questionnaire without paying for a QPS license. We can open up that QIF file that I made there, and you can see it's starting at 21 as I made, and I can just enter data as I did before, but with a free QPSMR license, QPSMR input license. So that's another way of doing data entry. So that completes this video on entering data. There's obviously many more videos in the QPSMR Insight Up and Running series. Thank you.